Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear students, here in this program we actually basically learn about the constant functions and constant objects. Okay, so what I've done in the little change in the header file, I put up a constant here to say set HR as my constant function, and in definition I am putting up the constant here, and let me see out \n. This is a constant sethr function. Okay. Okay. Now I'll save it. Save all. Compile the stuff and give it a go. And in constructors, this is a constant sethr function, so I haven't seen the main first. In the main, I'm creating a time t, a constant object. Okay, a constant object can call a function which is constant, like this sethr, which is constant function on a constant object. Okay, t, and I'm calling it. No props, you can call it. Even I'm sending something 13 to it. But if one thing, if I do what? If I initialize this hh with this x, okay, now it will complain if you execute this. Here we go. It's a problem with this because this is a read-only structure. It is saying hh time colon resolution operator hh in a read-only structure, because this is a read-only structure. When I say constant function, that means you can do something like reading and whatever, but you can't assign something to the hh. This is the main thing what constant does, a constant function does. And to access the constant functions, we usually need constant objects which can access that. Okay, now here since I'm closing this, it doesn't have a problem, but we are seeing one important thing, that is the constructor. Even though this t is a constant object, okay, it should typically call a constant method or function. Okay, it can't call constant non-constant stuff. But I am when I create the object, I'm calling basically a constructor. One thing to remember is a constructor cannot be constant. Constructor cannot be constant, okay, because constructor are meant to initialize objects. So in constructor, and still I have when this will be called, because I have only one object, that is my constant object t, it is still calling the constructor with parameters. So that means which is actually modifying your class data members. Okay, this is one important distinction here. Even though one important thing to note down also is, maybe I will call a set data here. Okay, maybe I do what? I don't initialize it like this, but I do what? I call the set data function and I send it this h comma m comma s, whatever you have sent to this constructor. So what we said is that a constructor cannot be a constant. A constructor cannot be constant because it has to initialize. Then whole theory of constructor fails, because constructor means that it constructs objects and initializes things. But so it can't be constant. You can't put up here constant. If you put up a constant, it will straightway constant should we say, it will straightway, you know, cause an error if I give it a go. And here we go. A constructor, you know, can't be a constant, so I should not do that. The next thing is, we are saying that a non-constant function can't be called by a constant object. Okay, but if we have a constructor, that constructor which is always non-constant, okay, can be called by the constant object. But I've done a twist here, that I have done what? I have called in the constructor a non-constant function setData. It's basically doing things. So question is, will this work or not? Okay, and answer is yes, this is gonna work. In setData, maybe I see out in non-constant setData method. Okay. 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 So save it all and it's good to go. And it's saying in non-constant setData method. So then you may question that what's happening, because we are telling all the time that the constant object can't call the non-constant method. But what's happening? Basically what's happening is the constant feature of this object, that we are saying that hey, this object is a constant, starts after the constructor finishes. When this constructor call, this is constructor, it calls the setData, it does all those things what a setData does, it comes back and constructor finishes. After this brace hits of the constructor, the constant property of object starts. It becomes now constant. Now you can't call any damn non-constant function using this constant object until you don't have a destructor. Okay, so that's what we can call setData a non-constant method within the constructor, because when you have a constructor, basically your constant feature of an object is not yet implemented, as because constructor itself is a non-constant. So we have to wait until this constructor finishes. So inside, if you call some non-constant object, okay, non-constant method or whatever, you can. That's one thing. Okay, but after that, so I'm finished with the constructor here, which actually broke all the laws of constant, so it doesn't actually help the cause of constant. But after that, so why in the world I will keep any object constant is I don't want to modify using that object. I do not want to modify my class using the object, but let it be like a read only stuff. Okay, so for example, if I say like t dot setHR, okay, it's still setHR, because setHR is a constant method. It's a constant by putting up the constant at the end of the parameter list and before the brace. This becomes a constant, and you can actually read something from it. But if you want to assign something to it, it's of no use. It won't work, because it's a read-only block. It will tell you, hey, it's a read-only structure, you can't assign something to it. Okay, and if there is a method like setData, which is basically a non-constant method, and you try to call setData using the constant object, it will again show you an error. If you try to execute it, it's gonna be error, because setData is what? It's a non-constant method, and t is a constant object, so I can't call it. So that's what it's saying, call to time setData constant. So because setData is not constant, and in fact it's another error maybe also, because we have in setData where to send something. Let me send something to it, 2,5,7, save it and try to execute it. That will still be an error because of problem of constant versus non-constant. But if I am creating another object here, tnc, that is non-constant time, okay, let me call it nct, maybe non-constant time, non-constant t object. Okay, now if I call the setData but using nct, it has no problem whatsoever. And if I do then a display of nct ncd, it doesn't matter. It has no problem, because why? Let me save all, execute it, because ncd is, now you can have a non-constant set data method, while we have 257 which are basically initializing here 257 as a set data. Okay, what I am trying to tell is the set data is a non-constant and ncd is a non-constant object, so we can call it. But we can also call, using the non-constant object, a constant method like sethr. If I do here, I say ncd sethr, set it 13, and again display ncd, okay, get data. It should have no problem whatsoever. Give it a go, it will run fine. But even though I'm calling using ncd, which is a non-constant time object, okay, and I'm calling a constant method, but I can't assign something inside it, okay, because constant methods means read only, so it's again an error. So it doesn't matter that if you call it with a non-constant object, you say, hey, okay, it's a non-constant object, maybe it will assign. No, it's not gonna assign. So what we're talking about is constant object can call constant methods. Non-constant objects can call both constant objects and non-constant methods. Basically, if you want to read only structure but you have non-constant object, just give it a go. You can call constant methods using non-constant object, but it's better to have a constant object to call the constant methods, which will give you the complete read-only feature. One more thing which we should add up is maybe for example, we have get data, for example, which is read-only. It's typically read-only. Okay, I can't call this get data using a constant object, even though the get data is not modifying your class. It's not declared constant, but it is inside constant. It's read-only. But you can't do that because you have to explicitly call this. We have still an error here because sethr is trying to do something. I will save it and try to give it a go. Now get data is a problem because you have to explicitly define get data as a constant. If you define get data as a constant here, so it is not a problem. You can call it using both the non-constant as well as constant. What's the problem here? Let me see. Definitely it's the problem in the prototype, because prototype says this is not a non-constant function, say this is a constant function. Okay, now save all and give it a go. No props now whatsoever, because get data can be called on non-constant object as well as constant object, because get data itself is a constant. Okay, because non-constant can call the non-constant objects. Okay, sorry, non-constant objects can call the constant methods, but for constant objects you have to always be constant method. Now there is one more thing in this, that if we have, for example, some data members which are basically, you know, a constant. Okay, so if we have a constant data member, now what we do with that, how we initialize that. Okay, say for example we got a const constant data member, say Jenny, that will be my name, which is constant. Okay, now how to initialize this? So if we want to initialize the constant data member, then we need to have a member initializer. So constant data members are actually initialized with a member initializer. So we will see the syntax of this member initializer. Okay, even though we have all data members like HHMMSS, they can be initialized with the member initializer, but member initializer basically is necessary for the constant data member, not for others. But you can still, if you want to initialize these also with the member initializer list, we can do that. Okay, But if we try to initialize this Juni in this constructor, I'm trying to initialize Juni using what is this? Here is my constructor. Maybe I will not call this set data. I will be initializing it here only. And I'm also trying to initialize Juni with, say, the minutes, whatever the hours we have, maybe. Okay, hours we have, I'm initializing with that. But this is gonna be the problem because because this is constant, because this is what it's saying, that you are trying to assign the read-only member, because this is a constant. You can't assign it like this. So how to do that? But there's a problem here, is that I have not declared it of any type. I should have said int. First error is this, because I am declaring a variable but I'm not telling what type. So save it and run it. Now here is a problem. It was giving the wrong error basically, but now here's the problem. You can't initialize, because this is Juni is read only, is a constant. So how to initialize this Juni? Okay, how to initialize this Juni is, we can't do it here, we have to do it somewhere on a top. And how? The syntax is first saying colon, then I'm saying the variable, which is basically the constant variable. Okay, whatever the name it is, whatever the name it has, and then I have appearances, and in the appearance I'm saying what I want to initialize it with. And now it will not give us a problem, but I should not put up it like this. So constant members will be this is called initialization list. This is what we say, member initialization list, or this is how we do it, member initializer. This is the syntax of this member initializer. You say colon, and then you say the variable name, and you say what you want to assign to. Now if you save it and execute it, it doesn't matter. There's no problem whatsoever, even though you can assign other guys. Control Z, I should say comma, and maybe I will put up, I want to put up this, I say cut it, any non constant variable you can assign it also this way, HH, then appearances, and say H. No problems. Save it all, execute it, so there's no problem. So what I'm saying is that if you have a constant, member variable that can be assigned like this, you can't assign it like this, but you have to assign it like this. So this is the initializer syntax. Okay, later on we will also see in the composition, where we see that we have not only in a class the variables, but also some objects of another class. Those objects have to be assigned this way. And later when we see the inheritance, actually there we see that base class portion of the derived classes also must be initialized this way. So in inheritance we'll repeat this, and in the composition when we see the objects as the class members, at that time we'll initialize this way as well.